Hello and welcome to eNews at 7. I'm Shahan Ramkisoon. It's great to have you with us. Our top stories tonight. Floyd Shivambu rubbishes allegations that he got 10 million rand stolen from VBS Bank. Meanwhile, his brother Brian Shivambu, who's accused of benefiting from the looting, is planning on challenging the VBS report. Our top story, Floyd Shivambu has finally broken his silence on the VBS scandal. The EFF Deputy President is calling reports implicating him fake news. In a statement released today, he says he's seen weapons of mass deception and propaganda machines working to mislead people. Shivambu says he's never received 10 million rand in his personal account from VBS or anyone else. He's slamming what he calls faceless sources from the South African Reserve Bank. Shivambu spoke to ENCA's Nicolaus Bauer.
I have not received any money from any VBS account, and that is what I emphasize in the statement that I issued. And I want to give you some context that this information that we are responding to, the source is a person who claims to have spoken to the Reserve Bank. I spoke this morning with the governor of the South African Reserve Bank to check if any of the Reserve Bank deputy governors or himself have given information to Daily Maverick. And then he sent a clear text message, which is going to now confirm with a letter to say that none of the HODs and none of the deputy governors in the Reserve Bank has ever given information to the effect that I have received 10 million. So that thing is fake news that is being spread.
I understand that, Mr. Shivambu, but I'm going to ask the question again. If it's not your bank account, any other EFF member's bank account or the party itself, has any money flowed fraudulently from the VBS banking scandal to the party?
Nicholas, the EFF has got possibly a million or more members. And how do you want me to now say if there are EFF members who got money from VBS or not? Maybe there are members of the EFF who have got bank accounts with a... I'm not dealing with that.
Has the party enjoyed any money from the VBS scandal or not?
The EFF is going to have a press conference on Tuesday to deal with questions that relate to its finances.
Well, entrepreneur Brian Shivambu is considering legally challenging the damning VBS report. The lead investigator says he received 16 million rand from the embattled bank. He's now preparing to take that report on review. Erin Bates has more.
Brian Shivambu is planning his attack on the Reserve Bank. He is taking aim at the central bank's prudential authority as well as the authors of the Great Bank Heist report. The former EFF Students Command Administrator appears on page 135 next to an amount of roughly 16 million rand.
My client has not been provided with an opportunity to go and present his side of the story, but he is being labeled as a recipient of these funds.
Shivambu confirms his company, Schameka Projects, received money from Vele Investments in 2017. But he says the funds were for professional services rendered.
He's a young man of 30 years old who is an entrepreneur in his own right. It is not Brian Shivambu who had a relationship with Vele Investment. It is his company, Schameka, which had a relationship.
Nkwashu takes issue with Shivambu being referred to by name.
It is not known where he operates from, where Schameka operates from. It is not known whether there are business development people there, whether there are CFOs, whether there are CEOs, etc., etc. What is known is that Brian Shivambu received 16 million.
So what do you know about your client's company, where it's operating from, who's involved, the structure of it, and so forth?
Well, like I indicated to you before the interview, I am taking further instructions from my client later this afternoon.
Brian's brother, EFF Deputy President Floyd Shivambu, has rubbished allegations he received 10 million of the 16 million rand.
He printed the entirety of his bank statements, the VBS bank statements, since he opened the bank account. There's nowhere where there is a linkage to my account, none whatsoever.
The EFF set to hold a press conference on Tuesday. Brian's lawyer cannot confirm whether or not his client is still a member, but he does confirm Brian is no longer on the party's payroll. Erin Bates, Johannesburg.
The late struggle icon Eric Mchali is being remembered as a man who worked selflessly for South Africa's freedom. Tripartite Alliance leaders have visited his family home in Durban. Charlie died on Friday after a short illness. Sipamandla Goge reports.
Coming in their numbers to pay respects to the departed icon, Eric Stalin Mchali is one of many unsung heroes of the liberation struggle.
He contributed enormously to the development of South Africa, to the struggle for freedom. He was one of those who left, who was in the party, who was in SAT at that time, in the ANC, and who worked selflessly and tirelessly for our freedom.
Mchali's family has described him as a unifier.
What's warming as well, more especially, is that my father was a unifier. He didn't like the current factions that you see in the ANC currently. So to see all of them here united like this and in good spirits is comforting as a family, because then we know that he's smiling wherever he is right now.
The ANC says Mchali scorned on factionalism and ill discipline.
He has also been emphatic on the unity and dealing with factions in the ANC. But two outstanding attributes that we'll give to him. The first is that he was a good critic. He would critique the senior leadership of the ANC, but in proper platforms, within structures, and on one-on-one occasions. He was that kind of a person who never shy away to engage with the leadership where mistakes are committed.
The KwaZulu-Natal SACP leadership says the alliance must unite in honor of the departed stalwart.
He was an embodiment of our alliance because he understood that the struggle need all of us, the African National Congress, the South African Communist Party, COSATU and SANCO, that if we are united, we are strong. But if we are divided, we will fall.
Mchali will be laid to rest on Sunday, the 21st of October. Sipamandla Koke, Durban.
The Freedom Front Plus launched its 2019 election campaign in Port Elizabeth today. It's urging all minority groups in South Africa not to give up and be passive, but to instead come out in their numbers to vote. Sandy McCowan was there.
The FF Plus had a strong message for its supporters. Change can happen.
We say, we fight back. Fight back.
Party leader Dr. Pieter Groenewald called on South Africans to ensure there's a solid opposition by giving the FF Plus a strong voice in Parliament.
Opposition party alone will receive enough votes to beat the ANC. Therefore, you will have to go in coalitions. And therefore, if the Freedom Front Plus receives more than 1 million votes, we will be a strong partner in that coalition to ensure that the government is not the ANC.
Groenewald says his party will concentrate on 5 core issues, including opposing land expropriation, fighting poor service delivery, and doing away with affirmative action. Many here feel the FF Plus is the only answer.
Before me was who voted for the ANC, fear F plus, people do the correct thing. They is not people who come with lies without telling not the truth. They're telling the truth for the whole wild world.
Groenewald urged all South Africans to go out and register so they can vote in the 2019 polls. Sandy McCowan, Port Elizabeth.
After the break, we take you to Zimbabwe, where people are facing the country's worst economic crisis in 10 years. Welcome back. When the city of Cape Town was on the brink of running dry, the number of projects were escalated in an effort to find additional sources of water. Now that dams are collectively over 70% full, it's time to rethink some of those emergency plans. Peladi Setusa reports.
In the panic of a day zero reality in Cape Town, desalination plants were seen as one of the best ways to increase access to water. 3 temporary plants are up and running, but now it seems plans for a permanent one are seriously being reconsidered.
The temporary desalination plants was essentially planned in response to an emergency situation around the drought. The rainfall has definitely provided relief for our dams, and it has given us time to ensure that we take all factors into consideration in making decisions with regards to our water future.
Ideally, construction of a permanent plant should have already begun, but technical assessments are still underway. While recent rains have bought the city of Cape Town more time to rethink their plans, the situation for businesses that have already built in-house plants is a bit more complicated. Many of the plants have only been granted 2-year operating licenses.
You had a lot of progressive thinking companies who put in place this infrastructure, but I think it's absolutely essential that they're allowed to continue operating that infrastructure.
Raven says taking more time to consider all alternatives would be a good move. Limburg says the 553 million rand received from national government towards drought funding will be used to continue with exploration at 3 different aquifers in the city. Piledi Situsa, Cape Town.
We apologize for the quality of the visuals in that story. Further afield, Zimbabwe is facing its worst economic crisis in a decade. There's simply no cash in circulation, and it's leading to food chains closing down. Food and basic food items, as well as fuel rather, are in short supply. Our Zimbabwe correspondent Pindai Dube spoke to people about their concerns. This is what they had to say.
I've been in the queue since 11 a.m. and now it's about 2 p.m. is it? Can you imagine the production hours lost? I could have been doing some business, but time wasted.
Everybody knows the problem. What we need only is to change this government, to change the leader, the one who's running the country. If we change that one, and every problem is solved.
The prices are too high. I can't even to buy even a bread because the prices are too high. I don't think the president will run this economy as the prices are going high. I think it will be better for Mugabe to come back to lead this country.
Obviously the rates, the black market rate, so other people can access the foreign currency for importing their day-to-day stuff that they sell in their shops. So, they have to access that from the black market.
In Nigeria, 833 children have been released from the Civil Joint Task Force. It's a militia group fighting Boko Haram in the northeast of the country. The force signed an action plan to end child recruitment in September last year. The release of the children, 40% of whom are under 16, marks the first formal release. And U.S. President Donald Trump is welcoming the release of an American pastor who is being held in Turkey. Pastor Andrew Brunson's detention sparked a trade war between the two countries. Brunson and his wife were taken to the airport yesterday. He was accused of having links to Kurdish militants. It's also believed he supported a Muslim cleric blamed for the 2016 Turkey coup attempt. The pastor was jailed 2 years ago and had been under house arrest since July. A Turkish court yesterday sentenced him to 3 years in prison on terrorism charges, but found he had already served his time. For the break, we have your weather details, and then, are you a fan of street art? Well, the 6th edition of the City of Gold Urban Art Festival has started in Johannesburg, offering a graffiti tour.
Welcome to the Weather Center. We are going to start off Sunday with isolated thunderstorms over parts of southwestern South Africa, including the southern areas of the Northern Cape. But more intense thunderstorms are forecast for your Sunday morning over parts of the northwest and much of the Free State. Then as we head towards the afternoon hours, isolated thunderstorms will be confined to the eastern areas of the Western Cape. But we are expecting scattered thunderstorms that could become severe in places across much of the Eastern Cape, parts of the Free State and the northwest. Less intense thunderstorms are forecast over eastern South Africa. Then towards the evening hours, we are going to see drizzly conditions setting in along the west coast, and it's going to become mostly dry for the southern parts of the country. Now, if you are in the Northern Cape, you can expect isolated thunderstorms for a good part of your Sunday in most areas. It will be sunny for Appington, warming to around 27 degrees, much cooler for the southern parts of the province. Isolated rain showers are forecast for the western areas of the Western Cape, Cape Town, warming to around 20 degrees, and we're expecting thunderstorms for the eastern half of the province. It's going to be pretty unsettled for much of the Eastern Cape with scattered thunderstorms in most areas, warm for much of the interior, but mild as we go towards the coastal areas. Isolated rain and thunderstorms are forecast across much of KwaZulu-Natal, Durban and Richards Bay, reaching highs of around 22 degrees in the afternoon. It will stay fairly unsettled for much of Mpumalanga, Mbombela, with a top temperature of 21 degrees. A few sprinkles of rain are possible for eastern and central Limpopo. Thunderstorms are forecast for the western sections, where warm afternoon temperatures are expected. It's going to be mild to warm across the northwest with isolated to scattered thunderstorms forecast for your Sunday. We are expecting scattered thunderstorms across much of the Free State, Bloemfontein, warming to around 22 degrees. Gauteng should see passing thunderstorms for much of your Sunday, with top temperatures lying in the lower 20s in the afternoon. Now, looking ahead to your Monday, it's going to be mostly sunny and warm to hot for northern South Africa. Light rain along the west and south coast, extending into parts of the east coast. Thunderstorms are possible for northeastern Limpopo. Then on Tuesday, we are going to see thunderstorms persisting for the northeastern areas. It will be mostly cloudy with light rain in KwaZulu-Natal, a bit of rain as well for East London and Port Elizabeth. It will be mostly sunny for northern South Africa.
Well, the 6th edition of the City of Gold Urban Art Festival in Johannesburg kicked off earlier this week. The festival revolves around graffiti culture, including exhibitions, mural projects, film screenings and street art tours. Our reporter Detiris Alepe was part of the graffiti tour, viewing what the streets of Joburg has to offer.
The City of Gold Urban Art Festival showcases a graffiti tour. Led by Joe Beinder, the tour is aimed at creating awareness around graffiti culture, establishing Johannesburg as a destination for graffiti, and assisting in the development of the local graffiti community. Beinder says the art form at times goes unappreciated because of its stigma for being illegal and sometimes dirty.
There's many narratives around graffiti. I think they're all viable. I think they're all true. I think that there has to always still be the legal side of it. I think that it is what it is. But there's another aspect to graffiti, which is the big walls, the art, and it can have a real role within the Johannesburg inner city, which is bringing art to everybody.
But Beinder says corporates and government should embrace the art form.
A lot of corporate companies and the government, in some ways around the world, they try and fight graffiti. They don't want people tagging, they don't want people on the walls. But rather than that, do what has happened in this festival, is that let people paint your walls and you'll get beautiful artworks out of it.
Organizers say they aim to paint the mural that is Johannesburg one wall at a time. Detiros Lepe, Johannesburg.
Here's a reminder of our top stories before we go. Floyd Shivambu rubbishes allegations that he got 10 million rand stolen from VBS Bank. Meanwhile, his brother Brian Shivambu, who's accused of benefiting from the looting, is planning on challenging the VBS report. From me, Shahan Ramkisoon and the rest of the team, good night.